on Facebook, and don't forget also on UPND Media. And our Facebook page is carrying this program live as well. That is 5FM Radio Zambia. Now, later on in the course of the program, we will definitely give you an opportunity to call in and interact with a guest. And I'm your host, Zachariah Banda. Now, our guest is Mr. Justine Nkonge. He is a Democratic Party leader. We have not heard from him in the longest time, but we are grateful to finally find him because we thought he was in hiding somewhere, but we fished him out and we have him. And we are grateful to have Mr. Nkonge here. It's been a while. A happy New Year, happy everything, because we haven't seen each other in the longest time.
Thank you, Azak.
Good to see you. Good to have you.
See you too. It's been long.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
5FM.
Yes.
It's one of the radios that I count to be part of me.
Yeah.
And you remember those days when we frequented this
Yes.
radio station.
Yeah.
And I feel so happy to come back, Azak, together with the team here.
Yeah.
It is wonderful.
No, we're delighted to have you, and
you.
and would love to also know what have you been up to. I mean, you've been very quiet, and for a minute I thought, is this the end of the Democratic Party? What's going on? What's with the silence?
No.
Yeah.
You know, a political party is a perpetual succession.
Right.
A political party never ends with a member or with a person.
Right.
So when you see that you've not been able to see us or hear from us, don't think we've gone in oblivion.
Right.
It is because we are behind the scenes trying to organize things and putting one or two things in place. We've been very loud in our silence,
right,
as you call it, but otherwise we are there and kicking as DP.
Yeah. And how is it going? As far as because at this point you can only conduct one activity effectively: mobilization.
So mobilization, like I mentioned, that we might not have come out to make noise and this is what we're doing, this is what we are doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I can assure you that DP, as it was planted, it is still burning like a bushfire, and so far so very good.
Yeah.
The people of DP so very much.
Right.
And we've been more or less like in the background trying to do background work. Now it is time for us to come out and tell the people that here we are now. We've done a lot of the background. We've made sure that most of the legal issues that were there are dealt with and are done. Now we are out now to interact and speak with the people of Zambia.
Yeah. Interesting. The fact that we haven't spoken in a long time, and there's a lot that has taken place, and we haven't heard your comments on them. I'll take this opportunity really to find out how you find the current economic space like. I mean, are we making a progress as a country in as far as making sure that the cost of living is reduced and the number of, or if anything, all the people should be at least saved from the poverty that has stricken them as a result of high indebtedness? Obviously, we know, and now we had a drought, we had energy crisis. All this has impacted on the living standards of our people, and seeing to it that the cost of living has really hit high. But so far, how are we managing to contain this?
Yes, the cost of living undeniably has become very high. And I think it has impacted on everybody. Even here where I'm seated and I speak, I can attest to the fact that the economic hardships have never spared me and my family. But suffice to say that we have this high cost of living. Now, I don't think it is the time to start finger pointing, especially knowing where we are coming from. But Zax, you've mentioned very well that this country was left at the crossroad. This country was almost suffocating with the debt that we had. So for one to come out and start pinpointing and saying, no, we have this high cost of living because of this one who has done this, who has come to do this, who has come to do this. For me, I can proudly stand here and say that as a country, I think we are moving in a direction that will help us even as we go in future. Because Bazax, the debt, just the debt itself, We had elections in 2021. And the government of the UPND, yes, they inherited such high debts. I normally joke and tell people that only if maybe King Jesus was the one who was going to be elected, maybe we could have lived in paradise today. But as long as it's a fellow human being who was elected, who inherited such an economy, I think the hardships that we are going through, those are the things that I don't want to use the word expected. These are the results of the hardship. These are the results of the recklessness that we reached, that we went through as a country, that we were left in. We were left in a quagmire as a country. Even us as DP, even when we were campaigning, I remember one time declaring here, when we form government, we know that we are going to inherit a problematic government because the things the way they are, the effects have now started manifesting now. The high debt is manifesting. You followed the budget presentation. How much money was allocated to paying the debt? As if the debt issue was not enough, we experienced the drought that maybe we've never seen for a long time in our country. I think in my entire life, I had never seen the drought that we experienced last year. The drought compounded everything. And the drought is something that you cannot blame on anybody. This is what the legal people call force majeure. Force majeure means this is an act of God which is beyond my control. If it is beyond anybody's control, you can actually go and make sure that you turn the events so that you don't have drought. The cost of living is high, and we are able to see where what has plunged that into a situation in which we are. Our friends, I hope you remember when we heard that there were so many floods in where they actually try to make rains out of science. They combine clouds here and there, and they call it cloud seeding, and then they make rains. Those floods you saw there, it's because they were trying to make rains in a desert, but I think they overdid it, and they received more than they actually intended to actually produce. So if we were in a developed country like those countries, where we can be able to reach a stage where we can even come up with what is called crowd seeding, I think that could have even helped us. We wouldn't have been going through this kind of suffering that today. Otherwise, the drought has sparked a lot of things. When we go out, we talk about energy. It is something again that we had a lot of load shedding in 2015, but the load shedding that we have now, I think it is something that has suffocated the people of Zambia. It has really impacted on them. And you know how energy is. Energy is the answer to most of the issues. If there is no energy, even the millers who produce meal meal, they will not be able to mill the meal meal. If there is no energy, even a fisherman uses some energy in some form. I come from Luapula, where we do a lot of fishing.
Right.
I actually forgot to greet the people of Luapula. I'm going to greet them at the the program because
Right.
you mentioned that we are also live kwa mayo baletumfwa kwa mayo so kuiperepere nalomba kwa kashita kwa timposheka kwa mayo nabakukopala even the Kopala people, because I'm mostly prominent Copper Belt, Luapula and Lusaka. Those are my three places that are so dear, and I flow very well in them. So I was trying to discuss energy bazaks, and I was saying that we've been impacted so badly, and to run away to say that the cost of living is not very high, I think that is not true. And I must appreciate the fact that even government, including the head of state, acknowledges and they agree that we have so much unprecedented levels of poverty in our country. But the policies that are being in place, we just pray that the policies that we hear, that they pronounce, if they are put in place, those are the things that are going to help us as a country, even as we progress, even as we go forward. I think most of those policies, among the policies that are being put in place to bridge the gap. You know, when you talk about poverty in town and you talk about poverty in the village, the situation is not the same. In the village, it is something else. People in the villages suffer. I have Chifunaburi in my mind, and I can imagine how the people of Chifunaburi are surviving today, owing to the fact that even electricity is actually rationed to the level whereby they may only see electricity in the night. So it is impacted so much. And I would like to thank government. When I say I would like to thank government as an opposition, I don't mean that I'm trying to say I'm not required to come in power. You know, us as an opposition, we are one of the parties that are very objective. Where we need to praise, we praise. Where we need to condemn, we need to condemn. Government, through the policy of CDF, I think is trying to help to bridge up the gap. There is poverty in town, there is poverty also in the villages. But the poverty in the villages is something else. And thanks be to the CDF that is being increased every now and then. Every now and then, when we come, I hope Bazak, you have a question to come and discuss the constitutional reforms, the constitutional amendment.
Yes, we will, definitely. Yeah.
It is on some issue where now government is trying to make sure that they take the national cake closer to the people, and also make sure that regarding concerning the area, the expanse of the area where the constitution is, through the proposals that they are putting in the constitution amendment, is something that they are trying to make sure that this CDF that we have brought, that they increase every year. If our prayer from DP is even coming next year, it should be increased even to 50 million, because the distribution of national cake has always never been fair. The people in urban areas have benefited more than the people in the rural areas. And we thank this initiative, and we pray and hope that this initiative will continue, and they will continue increasing, because it's the only thing that we've seen that is going to help us, and it is in form of a devolved government where resources are now being taken close to the doors of to the citizens, reduced down to them, so that even what we are enjoying in town, they are also enjoying.
But there are questions around CDF and effective distribution, especially, well, not distribution, but effective implementation of CDF. Is a lot of questions. I think our Auditors General has revealed irregularities around CDF. I mean, it's prone to be a cash cow if you are not careful. How then do you propose this government can ring-fence restrictions and accountability, especially around CDF?
In the corporate world, we call it internal controls. Where a company, if it's a corporation, they need to make sure that they have put proper internal controls to make sure that the resources of the company are put to proper use, are put to good use, are not wasted. People are not taking advantage of the resources that are at their disposal by abusing it. In government and in political, we call it legal reforms. We use the law. It is the law. So for me and for DP, from where we stand, the only answer into effective distribution and the proper usage of CDF lies in the reforms of the law. What are the regulations that are there? How do people find a loophole? How do they find a way out to actually sneak money from meant for the development of the constituencies? It's because the laws are porous. So we are talking about these same reforms that we are talking about.
Right.
The same reforms are what is going to help us. If the reforms are affirmed, if the law is enacted in such a way that there is no room for anybody to be at the disposal of CDF, and then they look right, they look left, and they see that there's a leeway for them to run away with a 500 note, then we will continue singing the same song. So for us, we still call upon government to actually revisit those guidelines, the CDF guidelines, and make them justiciable, because there are some laws which are soft laws. When you make those guidelines, they are not justiciable. What I mean by being justiciable is people should be held accountable, not to just make guidelines. If someone is in breach of one guideline, they cannot even be taken on to be taken on to court and be prosecuted. So we want to encourage government to say anyone who is found wanting, stealing government money, because this corruption is a cancer. It destroys, it disturbs the intention of government. The intention of government is to take development back to the people where they are. But if you have people, bottlenecks on the way, people will be able to make sure that they frustrate the effort of government in trying to take development to the people. Those people, the law should actually visit them. So for me, I would propose that we stiffen the laws, that the laws that are there to safeguard and regard and put CDF to good use. Then we'll be able to achieve the purpose that was intended for CDF.
Other than corruption around CDF, we also heard in the news this past week that councils have deliberately not decided to actually implement some of those projects.
These are the same things that I'm talking about. That even when you make laws and guidelines, do not make laws that that at the end of the day will leave the local authority in a situation where they can decide on their own when they should implement something, or maybe they're not implementing for fear of breaching some law that is put there. The guidelines must be made in such a way that they are not acting as bottlenecks, but they are stiffen enough to make sure that those who would want to abuse the usage of CDF, the law should visit them. So the red tape that we are not encouraging. When we say we stiffen the guidelines and the laws, we are not asking for bureaucracy. The councils sometimes are unable to distribute to CDF. You know, they have a lot of words. You find that the money is just sitting in their coffer. The year ends without utilizing CDF. Why? Sometimes it's because of bureaucracy that is involved there. So when we say stiffen the guidelines and the laws, we don't mean that try to bring bureaucracy such that even the council chairperson, together with his team, are even afraid to make use of the money. Maybe that is the reason they are also even proposing to bring back the
members of parliament. Yeah, I was about to ask that, to say, do you think that,
yes,
you know, because if councils in the constituencies are unable to carry out projects like this, and the MP is not aware of, I mean, at the end of the day, it's his constituency,
yes,
as the boss of the constituency, that suffers. And he is likely not to be voted in because it looks like it's him who is not doing the job.
So politics, as a way in which it impacts development, just like you've put it. If I'm a member of parliament of Chifunabul, which I'm becoming this coming elections,
it's definitely been a stamp on it, no?
Yes. If I'm a member of parliament for Chifunabul,
yeah,
and I know that there is somebody who is frustrating development in my constitution, in my constituents, will I sit back and relax and watch them? So no wonder I'm saying they are in sync. Politics are in tandem with development, because as a political figure in the constituents, I will not sit back. I will not allow them to apply bureaucracy in distributing CDF. So for me, even as we come to go through these proposals, Vazax, there are some of the things that I feel this will help in one way or another, and there are some of the things that I feel this may not be good, may not will help. We are, I mean, I told you we are one of the political parties that are independent, who will call a spade a spade. If government is doing very well, we praise. If government has laxed, we will also offer checks and balance. But the checks and balances that we will offer will be the civilized ones. We will not go there and start insulting. We will not go there and start calling names. We will offer checks and balances in a manner such that even the person that you are offering checks and balances, they even appreciate, and they even sometimes compelled to even implement what you are trying to advise them, because an advice is just an advice. It's up to the person advising to take it or not. But the manners of approach also matters. So we are one of the people that offer checks and balances to the government at a level-headed level. If government is doing very well, we will praise the government. If government is not doing well, we will still also tell them, because as an opposition, we hold a fiduciary duty to the people of Zambia. Can you imagine a country without opposition? How government will relax, how government will be. So in case people don't realize, it is very important to have political parties, but progressive political parties that will not bring divisions in the country. We've seen some opposition parties that are there, instead of offering proper checks and balances and helping government to refocus and helping government not to be excessive in the decisions they make. We have political parties that are there to bring confusion, that want to bring anarchy in the country and make the country ungovernable. As Democratic Party, we refuse that kind of politics. We refuse that kind of an opposition party. We are an opposition party that is constructive. We are followed and loved by a lot of people because we don't name call, we don't insult anybody. We offer checks and balances at a level-headed, at a level playing field. We call a spade a spade. So I was just trying to mention Vazax to say, politics are very important, and there is a link, there is a nexus, a very serious nexus between development and politics. So the proposal in the Constitution amendment is one of those where they are trying to bring back members of parliament, because bringing them back, I think, will avoid the situations where the year has elapsed and the council is still sitting with about 20 million in their account, and there are a lot of needs in the constituents. The bridges are damaged, the poverty levels, A lot of children who are very intelligent are unable to go to their to universities and colleges because there is no such deliberate policies to help them and push them. As a member of parliament, you can't allow that. So for me, effective implementation and effective benefit of CDF can be realized if we make sure that we affirm the guidelines, we make the laws, but we don't make them bureaucratic such that it even becomes difficult for the local authorities to implement and spend the money that is meant to be spent in the constituencies.
I'm glad you touched on corruption, because obviously it's part of what's going on in as far as CDF is concerned. But let's look at it from the bigger picture side of it, from the broader side. I mean, do you think that this government, which of course came into power with a promise that it will fight corruption, okay, by all means, and then there are questions. Stakeholders are questioning whether they are living up to their promise to fight corruption, and I don't know what the Democratic Party position is in as far as this government's willingness to fight corruption.
Bazax, as the UPND government started, we are one of the political parties that got worried. We really got worried and thinking, will they really fight corruption according to the way we propose? Because we used to make a lot of propositions. Among our propositions that we make as a party when we form government, we say, if you are charged with an offense of corruption, it will be non-bearable. So we were very worried when UPND formed government. Year one passed. We never saw any serious fight for corruption except the confiscating of some monies that were stacked in homes, and then the culprits were left free using the law under anti-corruption that they allowed if you can get money, which we also didn't agree, because the intention of fighting corruption and the intention of the legislature, when they included jail for a person who did something wrong, especially in public office, the intention is to reform them so that they become a better person. Given another opportunity, they will not be able to go and behave in the manner they behaved. The other intention of the legislature is to deter the other would-be offenders. So at the beginning, we were very worried. We thought UPND is not doing anything. But as today, Bazax, I can tell you that we've removed our hat for them. Why am I saying so? Everybody else, the other opposition will say, no, I'm just here to come and praise government. I'm not praising government. You hear me as we continue when I'm going to condemn some of the things that we don't agree with. But when it comes to fighting corruption, I was telling somebody the other day, no, UPND is only fighting corruption in the opposition. They are only fighting corruption in the former ruling party. I said, if that is the case they are doing, for me, I think it's a step forward in Zambia. Bazax, when did you ever hear a minister being jailed for corruption in Zambia? There was a matter that started for Venakatere Kalumba. It started and it protracted for a long period of time. When was it only concluded? It was concluded under the regime of the UPND. I don't think, maybe I've forgotten, maybe I never applied my mind so widely to see, okay, there were those during Venachiluba, Venashansonga.
Marine Kabanshi was
jailed
as a former minister, yes.
Was jailed as a former minister. But you've seen where the blame is put. The blame is put, no, they were jailed because of the infighting, and the UPND is also brought in the picture. And when they are counting, UPND is not good, this government is not good, they have jailed so many ministers, they also account Madam Marine Kabanshi. When tribal people come from my province, from Wapra province, when they want to campaign and make themselves relevant on tribal lines, they hey, why are they just jailing people from Wapura? They start counting, hey, this one is from Wapura, this one from Wapura. Those are not the politics that we are calling in Zambia. If somebody has committed an offense, it doesn't matter where they are coming from, they should be jailed. Now, I mentioned that for me, when someone is saying they are only fighting opposition and in corruption, they are only fighting opposition and the former ruling party, I said, let it be so. Otherwise, if this government knows that they are jailing ministers, former ministers, and they know that they are also in government today, what prevents them? What makes them comfortable to think that when government changes, because government changes, They will not be there tomorrow. UPND will not be there tomorrow. The government will change because we live in a constitution, in a country that is governed by the constitution, and the constitution has provided a lot of provisions that enables that this is a democracy. When one party comes, the other party will come. So UPND, I know they are aware that there will be a time when they will leave office. So if UPND government is doing selected fight for corruption, they are only jailing those that left government. Then even them, when they come in, they also need to come and answer. If anybody will be that naive, where you've seen that ministers, not one minister, two ministers, three ministers, four ministers have been jailed from the previous regime, then you can be that foolish also to engage yourself in corruption today as a minister today, then you're only a fool on your own. And when time comes for reckoning, you have yourself to blame. So it is a step ahead for me. Whether they are only fighting one-sided, it's a step ahead for me, because we've seen ministers, we've seen public officers being jailed, and that has been posted on our calendar, that has been posted in Zambia, that it doesn't matter whether you're a minister, whether you're in an influential position. When time comes for reckoning, when you leave office, you are not a sacred cow. You can also be jailed. So for me and for us from DP, we count that there is something happening, because that's the only intention, is to deter the would-be offenders, apart from reforming the offenders so that they become better people. So if people are being ministers, the mighty ministers that you knew, I'm aware of Honorable Moman Lusambo, who is in jail today. We know we were following him. Those were mighty ministers, but today he's behind the bars. So that is a big lesson. And for me, that is a very good gesture as a country that we are doing in order to make sure that and send a signal that if you are involved in corrupt practices, it doesn't matter who you are, the position you held, when time comes for reckoning, the time of judgment will have come. You also go in.
There are questions around the fight against corruption, and I think that there was a time when the Anti-Corruption Commission did make announcements that yes, we have sitting ministers who we are investigating, and it became an issue. And now the president has said, look, don't bring statements of we are investigating a minister and so on into public when you have not done your investigations right. Can you just do your work quietly? This has been misinterpreted, by the way, by a lot of people, that he is actually shielding investigations from being public.
Okay. You know, Moneka.
And addition to that,
yes.
And an additional question to that is also there was allegations around the Economic Financial Court, all right, that it was obviously created to target former ministers and all. I would like your comment whether it's effective, because we've also seen cases where they have actually convicted someone who abused and they are later set free. And then you want to question, was that you want to really want again to think that maybe these people were saying that this financial code is targeted on former ministers could be true, because how come appeals are being reversed? Judgments have been reversed through appeals.
Yes, Vazax, I think I've provided in some way the answer to that. The perception of the people is that the Financial Crimes Court is just an institution that has been created in order to fight battles with the former ministers or the former government officials. I have provided some answer in some way. And this is what I said, Vazax. If that is the case, let it be. Because where I sit, Vazax, I'm aware and I know that if there is such a move that has been created, let's assume it is true. It is created in order to just fight the opposition and the former government officials. For me, I'm saying it's still a good gesture, because it should be a lesson to those that are serving today, to know that if you can come and, I'm just saying assume, I'm not saying it is.
Right.
For you, who has come to create an institution for your friends who are in government, it should be a lesson to you. What prevents you from thinking that when another government comes, unless you think Mulibamwe will not move out of government, but as long as you know that in Zambia, we have laws and constitutional provisions that allow one person to be in government and others to be. If you're a minister this year, you can't be a minister forever. You'll be a minister. We have members of parliament who have been MPs for a long time. This is the only time they have become ministers. So it means they will come and go. So if you sat and concocted an institution, a court, meant to victimize others, you should know that even you, when you change government, that can be applicable to you. So much so that, for me, the fact that we have ministers that are brought to that court, which is actually it's a fast track court, because legal matters, they protract, they take so long. So the initiative to make sure that we have a fast track court that should start trying a matter, a criminal matter, a matter of corruption, and within a short period of time a matter is concluded, it is also a positive thing, because where they hide. They were hiding into saying they will take me to court for corruption. It will stay there for 10 years. Government will even change and the matter will even be. So even the fact that they have established a fast track court to speed up financial crimes, to speed up corruption matters, it also a step ahead. So now you also asked me, Bazax, concerning the
investigations
investigations that are going on, where anti-corruption, when they just begin investigating and then they come up. I think we've heard, I may not be in investigations, but I've served as a police reserve before, mind you, and I was a senior police officer. I was assistant superintendent in Nkonge, and at least I have a bit of what investigation means. We are not allowed, or we are not encouraged to run away with just a smoke of evidence. You run away with it and then you go to the media and start publicizing. What you are doing, you are jeopardizing your investigations. So the court will say, come up with the facts. When you've investigated the matter, you know that you are standing on terra firma on that matter, then you are free. You can come out and say, we are doing this kind of a thing. Because there are two things. The law under Article 18 of the Supreme Law of the land presumes a person to be innocent until proved guilty. So this is the issue of protecting. Why the law, the intention of the legislature was that we need to protect the reputation of a person. Can you imagine, Zax, if every day one just comes, hey, we are investigating Zax, he stole this and this, he did this and this. In the minds of the people, even when you are acquitted at the end of the day, your name will have remained in their minds that this is a corrupt person. A few people who never even heard when you were acquitted, they will still regard you as a person who is corrupt. The Constitution is there to protect people before you can label them, before you paint them black, so much so that it is advised to make sure that you come up with concrete evidence. Because you preempt and the criminal will even be careful. You will find that they will even destroy evidence. So they call by the president to say, let's make sure that we come up. I don't think the intention is to prevent. The intention is to prevent. If the president is shielding his ministers, then that's a very bad thing. Even when if it is true he's shielding them, a day of reckoning will come. I've already mentioned here. If he's shielding them and only targeting those that left government, then the day of reckoning is not helping them. Because as long as they are Zambians and they remain in Zambia, they don't run away. We've had a lot of running away. If you have an issue, run away. But I'm sure the law catches up with whether you run away or what. At the end of the day, the law catches up with you. So if the president is shielding them, then that is not a good thing. But I don't believe at that statement. I don't think that statement is in way shielding them. We had issues in the previous regime where a minister is being investigated and anti-corruption is now ready to effect the arrest. And then we hear the president saying, stop, don't touch my ministers. We had those issues. If the UPND president reaches the current government through the head of state reaches that level, we will stand up and condemn that there is no way. And corruption has come up with overwhelming evidence. And because of that overwhelming evidence, they are ready to effect arrest. Then as a president, you come in and intervene and say, don't arrest my minister. Then that is out of order. We would call the president out of order. But the mere announcement to say, you Anti-Corruption Commission, when you are coming up, come up with facts. Otherwise, every person is innocent until proved guilty. So the only step forward to guiltiness is coming up with overwhelming evidence, because the onus is on you as an investigator to prove somebody beyond reasonable doubt that they are the ones who did this and this, so that you don't act contrary to the protections that are enshrined in our sacrosanct book, which is the Constitution, because it protects a human being. So I think it is that kind of a situation for us. That's what we've interpreted. We haven't rushed and said, no, the president is shielding. And the borderline, what we are saying is, we have a step ahead. the jailing of more than 4 or 5 ministers behind the bars is a very good gesture. It's a very good stamp. It's a very good indication. It's a very good lesson to the current ministers and the would-be ministers to know that when you are engaged in corruption, you will not be spared. So all in all, Zachs would say to that extent, we feel government is doing something in fighting corruption. Because how else will you hear, will you detect fighting corruption if you can't even hear anybody being jailed? Because that's the ultimate. When you are fighting, someone committed a crime, and if they committed a crime, they deserve to be behind the bars. And if people are being put behind the bars, and not only ordinary people, mighty ministers who are mighty ministers are being put behind, for us, we feel we are moving somewhere. It's a positive gesture.
Right. Let's get now to the amendments of some proposed articles of the Constitution, and I think that we'll not look at the entire list of proposed articles, but I would like to find out which ones you feel are key as DP. Okay. Yes. Why am I saying so? Because already stakeholders, some opposition political parties have said this amendment of the Constitution is not and should not be a priority of government, considering the fact that there is a high cost of living. And I think that I don't know what your position is vis-a-vis high cost of living to be a priority versus amendment of the Constitution.
Sure. I think, Zachs, you remember, I'm trying to begin from Bill 10 because among the things that we've heard, including I was following the other day the Law Association of Zambia on their comments. They were reading all the 12. There are 12.
About 13.
13, including the roadmap. Yes. They were going through one by one. And I think on most of them, they were referring to say, this was also provided for under Bill 10. This was also provided for under Bill 10. This was, so I began to think that, this discussion is premised on proving some point. And a lot of people are discussing to say, hey, UPND fought Bill 10. We'll also fight this. This is a reincarnation of Bill 10. It has just come in a different way. We are just waiting for them to give it a name, Bill 10. People even forget that was not just a name that was given, and they would give me as Justine Nkonge. That one was Bill number 10 of 2019. So that's how it gained the name. But people are saying, this is Bill 10 which has come. So beginning from there, and I felt so bad when I heard the Law Association of Zambia discussing in those lines. This provision, we don't think it is important because it was also in Bill 10, which was fought, and UPND was very instrumental in fighting Bill 10. They went to another provision, this and this and this, until they finished all of them. And according to the Law Association of Zambia, all the provisions, most of them, I think I heard them say, this is progressive, but it's not urgent and it's not necessary today. Their major thrust is that constitution amendment is very important. They recognize the fact that our constitution has a lot of lacunas. Our constitution needs an overhaul. It needs an amendment. And according to laws, they are saying we shouldn't have just picked these few. We could have maybe started, the government should maybe have started a long time ago and allow ample time for consultation so that we come up, we ask a lot of stakeholders, what are the things that you feel needs to be amended, needs to be corrected in our constitution? They feel like that. But let me now come to your question where you are saying, a lot of people are saying it's not a priority amid this, a lot of pressing issues as a country. The minister, when she was presenting the ministerial statement, when she was now availing the clauses of the provisions, yes, the provisions of the namesake of Article 10, that's what people are calling the namesake of Article 10. The minister was mentioning that we have a lot of pressing issues. This issue, we want to amend it so that we can apply money to we have a lot of bridges to build, we have a lot of roads. So for us, from where we stand as DP, there are some clauses that are necessary, Zachs. Even given a setup of a home, I'm staying in my own house with my own wife and my own family, and then we have some rules that allows anybody to make me as the head of the house and govern him to not in control. A child will wake up if he wants because he's allowed. He can go out, stay out without even you parents knowing where the girl child has gone. Your wife maybe can just wake up today and tomorrow she goes and say, I want to go and stay there. You know, that kind of a thing. I would not sit back and say, yeah, because I haven't bought meal. Let me not make sure that I avoid such situations. I think what I need to do as a head of the house, I need to make sure that the house is first intact. Because even development cannot thrive where there is confusion. Development only thrives in a country which is intact, which is governed by proper laws, and everything go very well. So to say this was not a priority, there are some things that we must agree, and I agree with those who are saying they are not a priority. But we've got things in this constitution amendment that would say are a priority. They are a must done. They need to be done. Among those things, number one was Zach's. I think the issue of delimitation of constituencies. The issue of delimitation of constituencies is something that has not started today. We have in 2019 or 2020, before the elections, the Electoral Commission of Zambia embarked on some exercise to go around the country, and they came up with proposals of how many constituencies should be created, the delimitation that should have happened everywhere. That thing, there was an attempt, very few. We saw in Eastern Province, a few constituencies were divided, but not to the expectations. Because a lot of constituencies, I'll talk about Chifunabuli, because that is a constituency that I've trodden so much, and I've seen its expanse. Chifunabuli Zach's constitutes the first two highlands. You need to get on a boat, a speedy boat. You cross two big rivers, lakes. Lake Chifunabuli, you also cross Lake Bangweulu in order to get to the other part of the constituency, because they are highlands. If you are not lucky on Lake Bangweulu, you meet the waves. A lot of people have died there. If you come on the mainland, again, the expanse is too much, because Chifunabuli starts, those that have been there, starts from Undova, just after Musaira Junction, a few kilometers from Musaira Junction. Chifunabuli starts from there, then it goes all the way to Cassava. The distance is so long. If you need to go deep, it goes. So I'm trying to demonstrate that we've got constituencies like such. And then you come and get the CDF, for example, which is the same amount. And you say, Chifunabuli will give them the same amount. Number one, the same amount that you give to, maybe in Rwansha, there are how many? Loni, there is Rwansha Central, there is which other one? I think it's just those two, if not three. You give the same amount, Rwansha as a town, as two constituencies or three, then Chifunabuli is actually bigger than Rwansha, and there are a lot of people there, and development there has lagged for a long period of time. Then you want to give them the same amount of CDF. That is not fair. It is important. So this change that has come, we are saying this is long overdue, because we have constituencies that are so huge such that the CDF, even if it is 30 million kwacha, when you throw it, it's just a drop in the ocean. It doesn't do anything, because you go to Chishi, there are a lot of problems. There are no schools, there are no houses for teachers. You go to Mbabala, the clinic that is there is very small. There are no workers. You go to you go to the mainland, you go to Miponda, there are several problems, and the money is not even enough. So the proposition to say, let's delimitate, except a catch Zach's. You know, the people that are complaining about delimitation, there are major complaints. I think government should hear this. I hope somebody is hearing. We need to also hear what the people are saying, because I heard the president, what he said. We are now ready to release, those are the words of the president. We are now ready to release the recommendation, the constitution amendment proposals. This is your law, and we are listening. Those are the words the president used. So, you know, those three parts of his statement are very important. This is your law as people. We are ready to present them. This is your law, and we are listening. For me, the listening part should not be downplayed, either by the president himself who said it, or anybody who is hearing. When you say we are here and we are listening, it means they need to listen from the people. Because the constitution is a social contract between government and the governed. we are the people, and the constitution says we, the people of Zambia, give ourselves this law. So that is our law. And it's important that the government listens from the owners of the law, because they governed, they are the governors, and the people of Zambia are the governed. And their submission is very important because it is their document. When the president says, and we are listening, he needs to listen to most of the submissions. I need to highlight some of the submissions that I will passionately appeal as DP from the president to say, I think, Your Excellency, the following are progressive. Like I've mentioned, the invitation is very progressive. It will help us, whether ECZ is going to use the 1999 recommended, but I also read when the minister was presenting those guidelines, those proposals, she mentioned that we have had a committee that has been formed that includes political parties, civic leaders, and other organizations that have been looking at this matter. So how they will do it, I think, is the cry of the people. The people are saying, this provision you are proposing, how are you going to implement it? Is where the issue is. And for me, I feel we may not go in details discussing these proposals. We first need to see it in bill form, because in bill form, it is going to explain when they say we want to increase the number of nominated members of parliament. When it is now a bill, it is going to explain and say we want to increase to so much a number. Then we will come up and say that number is too much. Where do you think the parliament will come from? That parliament is already full. That number is too much. Where do you think we will get the gratuity paying all those? The country will be in problem. That's when people should come up. But for now, just these proposals as they have been put, when they say Article 52 Bazax, Article 52 cannot wait. It's long overdue. When the president was in parliament, when he was addressing parliament concerning the principles and the values, he mentioned something that brought issues, debate. He mentioned to say, in case you are not aware, we have a constitution that can allow government to continue without elections. What did the other colleagues of ours, the opposition, say? They said, there will be no election. The president is saying
he wants to increase his term.
He wants to increase his term. That's why he wants to change the law. But us, we're objective and we are focused. We analyze when the statement is made. What does he mean? The moment he said, I was at it, I don't know, it's because maybe of a legal mind. I was at it and I said, you know what he means? I was trying to explain to my wife, you know what he means? What he means is this. Article 52 can plunge a country into a constitutional crisis. Because can you imagine Bazax in 2021, those elections that were held, if one of the presidential candidates pulled out, are you aware that we are not going to have elections? They refile the nominations again. Again, when they refile, another candidate pulls out. You can go over and over and over, and that will be a constitutional crisis. Article 52 is long overdue. In Bill 10, Bazax, if you remember, I sat before you, and I'm one of those that was discussing Bill 10 in depth. And one of the progressive proposals or amendment that was in Bill 10 was to change Article 52. And we were saying the old Bill 10 is not bad. So for someone to even come and discuss and say this proposal was also in Bill 10, therefore, what is the difference? We need to look at it holistically. What was contained in Bill 10? Chimone mbalala Bazax. Uleli mbalala waisa aliyeshisuma isuma waisa vika molu wabo la lunga lumo walafu isa shonse. Bill 10 was like that. It had progressive proposals. Then it had a catch. This government wanted to introduce, the previous government wanted to introduce clauses that was going to perpetuate their stay in power. Because among the things they want to change was the electoral system from the one we have. They wanted to take us back to, for the president, the first past the post. You know, the coalition government that we've seen in South Africa, whether if you are a minority government, you are voted by the minority people, you collide with other political parties, then you
add up the numbers.
Yes, because in their small wisdom, they thought they are going to have some percentage, and when they have some percentage, they will collide with some other opposition political parties and form government. So those are some of the rotten ground nuts which were in Bill 10. The Bill 10 entirely was not wrong itself. So to have propositions here, to have proposals in this constitutional amendment like changing altering or amending the provisions of Article 52 is progressive. I was following Lazi on that one. I didn't hear their conclusion properly because I thought Lazi would say that one is non-contentious. That one is progressive, but I heard them loudly when they said this was also in Bill 10, so we don't see it to be urgent. Why is it coming? It can wait. People of Zambia, Article 52 cannot wait. It just needs to be amended like yesterday. The other thing I've mentioned about limitation.
So there's been debate. Sorry, not too much. I mean, Article 52, like you put it, there's debate around it already. And I think the debate is that, look, it disadvantages the political party whose candidate has resigned, because then it means that that particular political party cannot participate in elections because they are not allowed to nominate a fresh candidate. So, and that also this can be used by crooked intentions of buying off a candidate, for example, from one political party, and there you go. I mean, the fact that there will be no fresh nominations, it means that you're reducing how many political parties can basically participate in that particular election, and democracy is compromised as a result. I mean, your thoughts on that fact, because that's a debate around it.
That's a big issue also. But look where we are coming from. We are coming from a situation before Article 52 was included in 2016 in our constitution.
Yeah.
We are coming from a situation where when someone resigns, when someone resigns, they will have resigned. And the political parties, even before, had no opportunity to nominate another candidate for them to go along. It used to just be like that. Then the intention of the legislature, though they missed the point, they were trying to solve a problem, thereby creating a bigger problem. It was like jumping from a flying pan onto fire. Fire is hotter than a pan. So to say we are curing that issue of buying a candidate, then bring a clause that when one candidate resigns, then there will be no election. Which one is hotter? Which one is hotter? I think the one where you can plunge a country into a constitutional crisis is worse. And for me, we feel that that one should be amended. Now, when you say no, it will disadvantage political parties, they buy them, they will do this and this. But if it's the same buying, even under the provisions of Article 52, can you imagine now another political party buys a candidate and then they resign? One, there will be fresh elections, but the effect that will be there, government, they will have gone. Can you imagine 2 days before elections, a presidential candidate resigns? Article 52 says there will be no elections. Those elections should be cancelled and there should be no more nomination. How much money will have been spent by ECZ? How much money will have been spent by other candidates also who are campaigning? They will have spent colossal sums of money. So apart from plunging the country into a constitutional crisis, there is also a huge cost that comes with conducting an election. So we are looking at a big picture. When you are making the laws, the legislature should have something that they are trying to cure. What is the absurdity in this law? What is the mischief that the legislature should cure? So in curing that absurdity, in curing that lacuna, in curing that mischief, do not create a bigger crisis. Do not create a bigger mischief that will come and make the country ungovernable. Because it is true, Article 52 is a bad law. Laz also agreed, except they said it's not urgent, and I disagree with them that this thing is very urgent. We were like me, I was just praying. Having understood the meaning and the intensity and the extent of Article 52, me, I was just praying. I pray these elections continue. No one should resign. No. And the prayer was answered and it continued. The election was held. But going forward, people now are exposed to the provision of this article. Zax,
they may be malicious.
They might be malicious and we will not hold elections. And what happens? We'll continue again and again and again. So our position on that one is we are looking at the big picture. The country is bigger than one candidate or than one political party. If one political party is disadvantaged versus the country being plunged into unconstitutionalism, I think we would rather save the country so that the country at large is. And besides, when you are pushing a candidate as a political party, what kind of a candidate are you pushing? You are pushing through a representative of the people, and before you come up with a candidate, you need to find someone who has integrity, because you are floating them. There will be your picture, there will be your pallbearer, there will be your lamp where you go as a political party. Why should you come up with every Jim and Jack that can easily be bought and succumb to be bought? So meaning, as a political party, you also didn't do a good job. So it's incumbent upon the political party to make sure that even when they are adopting candidates not bamushani na bwali you come up with candidates who will be able to stand and say, no, I cannot be bought. I'm there to represent the people of Zambia. Otherwise, it's not the fault of government that another political party buys another one. So for me, it's a big picture. Article 52 must go.
Would you rather it's an exception, maybe just for presidential candidates, and with members of parliament it should stay as is? No? Or you would basically wish that
no, we are talking about
it should be election no
we
matter
are
what.
About an election which is very expensive. And the election of a member of parliament is not cheap. It's also very, very expensive to conduct a by-election. You've seen.
I know, but it may not be as grave as for presidential. I mean, I think with the presidential candidates, I mean, it brings the country, it's the entire country to halt, you know.
Yes,
but with parliament,
so
I think
grave,
I think so.
It's more gravier on the president,
but
also on the MPs. It should not stay. It should also go, because we are talking of also MPs. We cannot stop having by-elections. We cannot stop having elections. In a constitution, you can just continue, because as DP, what we believe in, the year for elections should come. When it ends, there should be time to work. And as we actually propose that this politicking should actually end and stop. The moment elections are over, when are you going to deliver to the people of Zambia? When you just keep on elections? That brings me, Zach's, also to another proposal in the amendment.
So delimitation, Article 52.
Article 52.
These you feel, and by-elections. So these you feel they are urgent.
Must do their agent.
Let's talk about the third, and probably that's your last.
This is my last on those that should
be urgently.
And then I have those that government should backtrack on.
Right.
Those that government should not go ahead. I hope you can.
Such as
time also.
I'm looking at
the
time.
Issue of leaving to parliament to come up with the number of nominated members of parliament.
Through an act of parliament.
Through an act of parliament. If you can allow me also on that one.
Where
so that people can see that I'm not just here to discuss and say no, government is right here and here. I also have an issue in this same proposal. The same way I had an issue in Bill 10. I had issues in Bill 10, and there are those which were okay. So even in this amendment proposal, I also have one big issue. The rest, as they have named them, they are non-contentious. One of them is very contentious. And I hope when the president says, this is your law, and we are going to listen, as we are listening, I hope on this one, when I come to discuss, they could be able to listen together with a lot of other people that have voted. By-elections, Zach's. I hope you remember, Zach's, not once, not twice, we've been on this platform to discuss that when DP forms government, by-elections will be a thing of the past. A long time, even before those.
Well, this president equally said the same, and I think that he said by-elections are ridiculously expensive.
Are they a drain from national envelope? And the minister, when she was presenting this one.
So there's a bit of some consistency.
There's a bit
when you see this coming up as
yes. So this one, we also commend government. So there are those three. The others are, I'll call them the housekeeping measures. They are not so much,
5 years experience of secretary to the cabinet.
5 years experience of secretary. I think it's a matter of pros and cons. Why have they reduced? I think we need to get back to the in law, when enacting the law. The intention of the legislature is very important, because when it comes to interpretation of the law, we follow some rules as legal people. We follow the literal rule. There are some golden rules. There is a rule we call mischief. There is a rule we call jus dem generis. A lot of rules that we call. And the mind of the legislature is very, very important. What was the intention? What were they trying to cure? What is the UPND government trying to cure by saying we reduce from 10 on to...
Do you agree?
On to
5 years.
Me, it's non-contentious. For me, Bazax, it's non-contentious. It's neither here nor there. Let's take an advocate's case. We try to think evil of them who are proposing. What do we think they would be benefiting by changing that? What would be the benefit as a government? What do they want to do? What would it benefit them? If we are accusing them that this one is contentious and the reason why they are bringing them is this, let's try to be
I can appoint a permanent secretary who is party aligned to my political party, right? Yes. And put them as a permanent secretary, and they gain experience in civil service, yes, for 5 years. Next year, next term, when we win again, I can actually make that same guy and be and you want to avoid that, because then at that point you already are pushing a cadre into a very huge position such as secretary to cabinet.
Yes.
Compromising the civil service.
Appointment of a secretary to the cabinet is a prerogative of the president. It is up to him, the president, who appoints. That one is.
But at least he is restricted. At least he is restricted.
I'm coming
with experience. Yes.
I'm coming with the qualification.
Right.
It's a prerogative of the president. Now, Bazax, when you tell me that they can put one, I heard someone was saying that, you see what UPND is doing. They have been in power for 5 years. So next year, when they win election, they want to come and appoint a PSC who they introduced last year, and they have served for 5 years, and then appoint them as secretary to a cabinet. Now, right, let's discuss that. That's another advocate, devil's advocate, okay, together with the one you've mentioned, Bazax, right, of saying they can come and appoint a card that was just been there. But I would ask you a question, though you are the one who is asking.
Right.
I can have this opportunity, Bazax, to ask you. Are you telling me that this government, a government that comes to be, can never have a party PS who has served for 10 years? They would still have. Yeah. They would still appoint them if they wanted to appoint them as a cadre, or if they wanted to appoint them as a party aligned. So for me, I still think that one is not, if that is their intention, we would still say, Bazax, how much experience do you need to work at Radio 5 FM for you to be promoted? Did you need to wait for that long? How much time do you need to accumulate the experience? What is so difficult about the job of a secretary to a cabinet such that they need that much? We'll know for the judges differently depending on where they're being appointed.
Equally 10, I think. Yeah.
There are some 10, some 15, depending on the level of the court that they are being appointed to. Those are there, and they have explanations why it is done like that. They are looking for that much experience of a lawyer who has handled several cases, because law is one course that is very practical. What you learn at the university is what you use. What you are doing in court is what you will be doing as a judge, because the people who decide actually the matters in court, it's the lawyers who are arguing, the defense lawyer and the other one. So those accumulate that experience. So when they say you need to have 5 years to appoint a justice, a person who should give justice according to what the Bible also calls it. So it's a big thing to be compared to the office of the secretary to the cabinet. You are talking about a justice, a person to execute some of the writings of the Bible, who should be there to effect them when God says give justice. You're looking at a person, how much experience should they have? That person who should come and effect the provisions of the Bible. Now, when it comes to the secretary, for me, I feel 10 or 5 or 7, it's enough period for someone to gain experience.
I'll tend to you to a position which I think that even you as opposition political party, you've had your say around the appointments of permanent secretaries. I think Zambians have said we have compromised these positions. Yes. Okay, because there is no experience attached to who becomes the permanent secretary. Yes. We have now seen, the presidents, appointing cadres and compromising the CEO position of a ministry to a cadre. And it's all because it was not, it didn't have the ring fencing that permanent secretary to the cabinet has.
Yes.
And if we should be having proposals that probably propose that a permanent secretary should equally have such experience,
before they become permanent,
so that we bring back the integrity to the position of CEO of the ministry.
So as DP, we are alive to that fact. And our proposition, we've been propounding to say a PS is a civil servant. is a chief civil servant. And the civil service, we have a civil service commission. There are a lot of commissions, local government commission, civil service commission, a lot of them. Their purpose is to make sure that they promote people from the system. And essentially the way it should have been. Now the problem is these are soft rules. We don't have compelling laws. If we had compelling laws that speak to the appointment of the permanent secretary, we don't leave it entirely to the discretion of the president. I think if we have laws, then we'll move. I agree with you entirely that a person to be appointed as PS, we feel it should be somebody who has gone through the civil service for also some period. We've got directors who are in those ministries who have served there. Are you telling me even when you need to appoint your people, you can't find anyone in the ministry who have been in civil service so that you appoint them? So the civil service is compromised such that even later on, even when you come and appoint them as secretary to the cabinet, because that's the chief civil servant now, speaking to the president, informing the president on the needs and everything of the civil service. So that's it. So the number of years, the only problem is we are wearing those specs. See, when we are looking at these amendments, see, we are wearing those specs and seeing a thief in the government to say, whatever they are trying to amend, we want to see where is the trick? Where have they put the trick? Where have they put the trick? Some of these propositions, some of these provisions are non-contentious to discuss uberima fidei with utmost good faith from deep down the faith, from the literal knowledge that I've gained legally, and from looking at things as a political party, as an opposition political party. We can tell you that most of these things are non-contentious. However, there is one contentious issue. There are two inclusions in these proposals. Number one, it's to effect Article 47.2, where that article says, when electing members of parliament, including councils and mayors, care should be given to other interest groups, like the women, the youths, and the disabled. Those are other interest groups. Care. Now, that's a loose law. That is non-justiciable. Already, that provision is not talking to government. It's talking to everyone who comes up with people who should to be elected, who adopts people to be elected as members of parliament. It's political parties. So that constitution, that provision of the article, that article speaks to everybody who is coming up, who is coming up with a member of parliament to take due care to those interest groups. Now, that's a loose law. How do we enforce it? That's the one we call non-justiciable. So even if it is there, it is just there to make noise. There is nothing to compel a political party to say that when you are adopting, make sure that you adopt 50 and you adopt 50 women, 50 men, 50 youths, 50 disabled. There is nothing like that. So this proposal is trying to say that we want to increase the they want to increase the number of nominated. First, before they nominated, they want to amend that proviso of the constitution so that more women, more disabled, and more come in. Now the catch is, that's why I'm saying these amendments are not ripe for proper discussion, because government has not provided how they will be able to do that.
Which can only be done when it's a bill.
How are they going to make it when they amend? How will Article 47.2 of all those sub-articles under 47, how are they going to be framed? So government, we wait for them. Let them give us how they will frame us. Then we'll stand up in arms if we see that this is not okay. We'll stand up in arms and say this is not fine. But beginning today, that provision is not contentious. The one which is contentious is where the amendment proposal is saying we increase the number of nominated members of parliament to a number that will be prescribed by the National Assembly. It's the parliamentarians who make the acts. They are the one who enacts the law. So the fear of the people, Your Excellency, if you are listening from me, the fear of the people, even when you say the law is yours, these are your laws, we've given you, and we are listening. This one, Your Excellency, and together with the minister and everybody involved, we need to listen. You know, Bazax, I can go just a bit deeper. We have Article 68, which provides for nomination of 8 members of parliament. That article is also very loose. It's also non-justiciable. You can't You can't enforce it. You can't take the president accountable if they haven't appointed youths, if they haven't appointed women, if they haven't appointed disabled. Because it just says the president shall nominate 8 people, and his nomination, he may take care of the interest groups. May.
Yeah.
It doesn't compel, it doesn't
No.
say shall.
Yeah.
And even when it said shall, what are the numbers? What is the mix between the women, youths,
It
and
doesn't
disabled?
specify.
It doesn't specify, such that it's a prerogative of the president. We left it up to him to decide how many people you are. No, how many is decided in the Constitution. To decide the mix, how many youths, how many women, how many men should be nominated. I remember one time President Sata nominated 9 people. And according to him, he thought, 10 actually.
10 actually.
He thought the Constitution allows 10. So he went ahead, nominated that, including youths. Then I'm sure the legal people in government, the Attorney General and the Solicitor General Chambers, I'm sure they tipped him to say, hey, Your Excellency, you've gone overboard. There, he was compelled to change. But they can't tip him and tell him that, Your Excellency, you haven't appointed and nominated any disabled. He's not obliged because it's left. So this provision, this one, it's hybrid. It's good and it's bad. At its beginning, it's very good because it's trying to answer and cure that lacuna. It's trying to cure that mischief that leaves the president with a lot of leeway to choose the mix that he needs to appoint. To that extent, it is good. It has only become bad to the extent where it says the number that should be nominated
will be decided by Parliament.
You know the danger there was people that have been in the United Kingdom. Okay, let me begin by saying we have 3 arms of government. We have the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. The 3 should be independent at all times. They should not only be independent, they should be seen to be independent. Now, how are they seen to be independent? The legislature should not intervene or should not involve itself in the happenings and in the running of the executive. The executive should also not be involved, though in our country, the executive is also involved in the legislature. Ministers, because they are appointed from amongst the MPs, they are part of the executive. They are also part of the National Assembly. Those are the issues that we should be curing, thinking of curing, because that one also is a problem. It compromises independence of the National Assembly. Now, I was mentioning there are 3. Now, if we say that, okay, the number of nominated MPs will be determined by the same MPs, by the members of Parliament, the fear of the people, Your Excellency, is that the MPs in the House are usually in majority from the ruling party. They are in majority. So when they are in majority from the ruling party, and when they go to nominate, obviously they will carry the day and say, we have 50. When they have 50, the fear of the people, Your Excellency, what I have gotten and what I have read and what I have deduced myself, the fear of the people is that the ruling government, not only UPND, any ruling government that would come and propose a huge number such that when they go to Parliament, they compromise democracy, because Parliament helps us to hold the fiber of democracy. The independence of Parliament helps us to put us to hold the fiber of democracy. In UK, we have 2 parliaments. The reason why they have that, it's in order to enhance democracy. When the politicians in the House of Commons, they debate, they pass some bill. That bill is not final. It goes to the House of Lords. Those people are not politicians. Those are renowned and noble people from society who don't even have a political acumen. They are just people who are there to sieve and make sure that they reduce the powers of a politician. Because they will enact laws that will favor their ruling party. So the House of Lords is there to regulate that. Now, can you imagine if you are the parliament in our country? Also, as in Zambia, we have parliament. It's not as powerful as the parliament in the UK, because UK, they have no constitution. If we have a constitution and we also have parliament, constitution is supreme. Because a parliament is a baby of constitution, was begotten by the constitution. So the 2 still help in enforcing and thriving on democracy. But if we can have a country that would kill parliament, I think that would be a problem. We propose, and I submit from DP, that the same way the constitution is, it should name the number of nominated members of parliament. We don't argue in increasing the number. You know the mischief, the intention of the legislature by allowing the president to come up with another number of nominated MPs. The intention was, in an event elections have passed, and all the nominated people, there is no woman, there is no youth, and we don't have anyone with a legal mind. Everyone, because in elections, as long as you have a grade 12, whether you know how to speak English like me or you don't know, you can be elected as a member of parliament. So the legislature thought that if we left the president to only have those politicians who can be chosen from all boundaries, from all backgrounds, then we will not enhance governance. Let's allow him to come up with a number that will maybe balance on the gender, that will maybe balance on youths, that will maybe balance on ability, that will maybe balance on qualification and professionalism. So if the government feels that we need to increase the nominated so that we can further cure that thing, because we need technocrats also as ministers. When you are appointing somebody in the Ministry of Health, for me, I feel I just need to appoint someone who understands what is Panadol, who understands those terms, the medical terms. They will effect properly, because they are dealing with medicals. They interact with PSs who are medicals or directors who have the medical background. It will only be good that you are interacting with a person of the same mind, level of mind. So this provision, the insistence from us, that's why I said there's one provision which we are against with. We are not against increasing the number of nominated. We are against leaving it open-ended. We are against allowing the parliament, the act of parliament, to come up with the number. Today, it is stated in the constitution. So let it be stated again in the constitution, but let government, if they feel to increase, let them increase. So this is only one of the issues, Zach, that we can say is contentious in here. Otherwise, most of the other issues, they are not contentious. They are walkover. Why wouldn't we amend Article 57 or 52? Why wouldn't we abandon by-elections? Everyone in opposition, we say the same. That by-elections should be a thing of the past. It's expensive. It's a drain. It shifts the focus from development. It brings violence. The Mapatizia examples that we've had, the Mufumbwe examples that we've had, by-elections are bad and they beef. So when an amendment comes to say, no, let's amend and avoid. But the only thing we are waiting is, how are we going to transition? We also have independent member of parliament. How are we going to transition? What will be happening when we say we abandon? In an event one dies, what are we going to be doing as a country? That is the meat
that we are expecting in the bill. Great. Mr. Justine Nkonge, Democratic Party leader, is our guest on our Tuesday edition of The Burning Issue. And remember, we are also live on our partner radio stations, Tuta FM in Mansa, live on ZFM in Kapiri, live in Kabwe on Spice FM radio. Don't forget, we are also live on Platinum Radio in Indola, covering the Copper Belt, and also live on our Facebook page. It's that time when we will take your phone calls. Well, we took quite a lot of time on these issues because we felt they were very, very important for the Democratic Party to have a say on and take position as well. So we'll take the calls now on 0955-221515. That's the number you're calling us on. Good morning. Welcome to The Burning Issue. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Yes, please, Mulenga.
Constitution mwailondolola bwino sana lekeni tetinkwalisho kupita mufyonse mulandile lekeni ndandike pali limitation ngamwalolesha pali limitation pali bakapatulula kama constituency lukwati lusaka district mukwete ama constituency a7 but ngamwalolesha chika nchibia chikulu pali lusaka mukwete constituency imo lukwati chinsali constituency chikulu lukwati kumpika kweka mpika centro nomba namwishibeti chumfuisha enso nangu chumfuisha katushinga kuseka uroshani mwalipangati new district na Bushimanda but yaba mumpika centro lukwati kumkushi mwalipangati Lwano district but yaba mu one of constituency mumkushi but mlejati ni district yetishile panga sense lukwati bango yulu constituency ngoko kwina mlande kuchifuna budi sikuru sima constituency ba nani kane bazaki lukwati chikaputa cheka Lusaka district yachepa but mulelanda ati mwabule mpia CDF mwabapera 6 million iko no muntu uli mu Lusaka uli mukabwata. That's why abantu balelanda ati ine CDF tabalayimona not kulishe fima constituency malulo areas bakwe bati no muntu ende. That's why balelanda